And now, please join me in welcoming remotely our first speaker, Director General Gerassimos Thomas.
Dear colleagues, it is a pleasure talking to you today. It is unfortunate that I cannot be with you in person, but I had a commitment since the end of last year that I could not change. I have always been a great supporter of this EU Tax Observatory event and of Gabriel Zuckman's efforts to promote a long-term vision for tax policy. So I am particularly sad for not being able to follow the discussions during the day. The topics of the three panel sessions are very important for the Commission's work this year and beyond. In my personal view, they cover much more than the issue of EU own resources, for which the Commission responsibility in the Commission lies with DG Budget. What is important for us in TaxSud is to help the Union and Member States design and enforce the right tax policies. The distribution of revenues among various levels of government is a different matter where we have a keen interest but no direct responsibility. The EU and its member states, as our international partners in G20 and beyond, are keenly aware of the need to reassess what we tax, where we tax, and how we tax in the face of important changes in our societies, in our technologies, and our trade partners. The OECD Global Tax Agreement in 2021 was an important turning point to secure a globally fairer tax system. The EU was among the first jurisdictions worldwide to agree on the Pillar 2 directive and fix the starting date on 1st of January. This is tight but necessary. After agreement in Council, our member states are now implementing a 15% effective tax rate for multinational enterprises in the EU. 3 member states have already tabled national legislation. Others are working hard to do it just before or just after the summer so that companies can adapt in time. The European Commission's and Union's commitment to the global tax deal is also evident from our active participation in the OECD negotiations on Pillar 1. It is critical that these talks are concluded quickly so that the multilateral convention is ready for signature in the first half of 2023, exactly as the G20 finance ministers agreed. The European Council has asked for the Commission to report on progress before year end. But international coordination doesn't stop at the OECD. As you know, the UN resolution was adopted in December last year and launched intergovernmental discussions on ways to strengthen the inclusiveness and effectiveness of international tax cooperation. This process will be finalized in September and envisages the possibility of developing a new intergovernmental cooperation instrument, a UN tax convention. The EU is a permanent observer in the UN and acts in cooperation with its member states. It is good to note that the EU has kept a coordinated position on this issue today. A fairer global tax system that delivers on SDGs, among others, is among the European Commission and EU's priorities. Beyond the global reforms, we are on track to propose a comprehensive structural reform of business taxation in the EU. In the autumn, we will put forward our proposals for BIFID, a common tax rulebook for the 27 member states. BIFID will reduce administrative burden and remove tax obstacles from cross-border companies and groups. BIFID will be consistent with the underlying principles of the international two-pillar reform. It will take inspiration from Pillar 1 by proposing a formula as an alternative method of profit allocation, and it will draw on Pillar 2 in the use of financial accounts as a starting point to develop a simplified tax base. It will be complementary to, but not dependent on, the international reform process. Moreover, the BIFID package will inevitably deal with the transfer pricing aspects complementing this structural reform. We all know that corporate taxation is only a small part of the tax revenue base in the EU. We therefore need first to ensure that member states can effectively collect the revenue that they are already rightly due, and second, to ensure that we collectively reflect on new sources of tax revenue for the future. Billions of tax revenues are lost every year to tax avoidance, money that could be used for public services like schools and hospitals, or to boost jobs and growth by businesses. For this, the fight against tax fraud, evasion, and avoidance must remain very high in our agenda. We in the EU have upgraded our transparency framework in recent years to bring it into line with modern realities. Transparency is essential for the smooth functioning of the internal market and the first step towards fighting against tax fraud, evasion, and avoidance. Over the past 5 years, major progress has been made in automatic exchange of information, access to anti-money laundering information, transparency of digital platforms, and last but not least, an agreement was made just a few weeks ago on DAC-A, which will create unprecedented tax transparency around crypto assets, e-money, and digital currencies. It complements the markets in crypto assets regulation and the transfer in funds regulation. It is also fully consistent with the OECD initiative on the crypto asset reporting framework. A general approach was adopted by the Council within 5 months, proving that member states, when they want, can be a driving force. The European Parliament's opinion will also be a key element in this process. The EU has also adopted a directive for the public disclosure of country-by-country reporting, which starting from 2024 will be compulsory and no longer limited to tax administrations only. Transparency will also be a central component of our upcoming proposal in June on withholding tax procedures, as we will ensure that tax administrations benefit from more standardized reporting obligations throughout the financial chain. At the same time, this proposal will hold major benefits for businesses. It will make withholding tax reclaim procedures faster and more efficient for investors and create a common EU digital tax residence certificate in line with the digital transition and the completion of the Capital Market Union. In 2021, the Commission proposed UNSHEL to tackle one of the most pervasive channels of aggressive tax planning. The aim was to crack down on shell companies that have little or no economic activity in the EU, but instead are used for tax avoidance purposes. By curbing the use of empty shell entities, we can boost public revenues and level the playing field for real-life businesses. The proposal is now in the hands of the member states. The Swedish presidency made an important effort, but member states failed to agree that the file is ready to move to ECOFIN for a political agreement in June. This is regrettable, but we will persist in our discussions and try to move forward. The European Parliament has called for a higher degree of ambition in its report in January 2023. It proposed to lower the thresholds proposed by the Commission, below which companies are exempt from the reporting requirements, and further penalties for entities that fail to comply with the new regulation, including those with zero or low income. Member states need to come to an ambitious agreement quickly so that we can start having a real impact. As you can see, we are working hard to strike the right balance between supporting European businesses and boost competitiveness on the one hand, and ensure that member states have the revenue they need for recovery and growth on the other hand. These twin objectives are and will remain at the heart of the EU's tax policy. But we must also keep an eye on the future. What challenges do we face in the field of taxation? What measures are needed to uphold our values while delivering sustainable revenue streams in the decades ahead? This opened the door for studying new green and health taxes and revisiting questions regarding taxation of capital and wealth, looking at the full range of taxes at our disposal and that their design will be crucial to ensure sustainable revenues and fair tax systems. In other cases, existing taxes will need to be modernized, like is the case for the current common system of VAT. The e-commerce package in 2021, the VAT rates reform in 2022, and the proposal on VAT in the digital age adopted in December 2022 are good examples. The next step is to look at the VAT rules for financial and insurance services to make it more appropriate to the reality of today and tomorrow. Again, the speed by which such reforms advance in the Council prove that member states, when they want, can be a driving force, but also that the role of the European Parliament is important in giving guidance and engaging national parliaments in this debate. I'm happy to see that many similar questions are on the agenda of today's conference. Last year, the Commission launched the Tax Symposium reflection process to look at these and many more questions related to the future of taxation. This reflection continues at full pace, and will shape our policy agenda well past this Commission's mandate. Our upcoming annual report on taxation will provide solid data and analysis on the trends and challenges. And we will once again convene national and European members of parliament and member state policymakers, along with IFIs, businesses, academic community, and civil society in our 2023 tax symposium this autumn to share views and the way forward. European tax observatory in its first 2 years made an important contribution to these debates. I want to thank Gabriel for his leadership and his sometimes controversial views, who make such boring tax debates interesting. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you fruitful discussions today.